Hello and welcome to today's live stream. It's the official start of the election last week. From Tuesday, all the nominations came out of who was standing, who's already been elected at community council levels where seats have been uncontested. But before we get into tonight's live stream, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, the sad news today that Henry Patterson passed away last night. The author of The Eagle Has Landed, a great film from long ago, which had many stars like Michael Caine and Donald Sutherland in it. It's on every year, so everybody will have seen it at some point. So that's sad news that Henry Patterson has passed away. Also, Freya Sykes-Bledsoe this week has put fundraising for breast cancer awareness for a birthday. Whether it's coming up or whether I've missed it, I'm not too sure. But please, if you can, go donate to that. There's a lot of people who have to deal with this, and everybody will think it's just women that suffer with breast cancer. It's not. In the UK, one male dies every year of breast cancer. Okay, it's not as prevalent as it is in women, but men can suffer from breast cancer as well. So with that, we're going to get into today's live stream. There's nobody here at the moment, which is disappointing because I had a joke ready for Steve. Somebody coming on and joining me. Anyway, I'll go with a joke, and if people watch a live stream later, they can see it. This week, Labour brought out all the big guns. They brought out Sir Keir Starmer, Mark Drakeford, Angela Rayner. Everybody came. So I thought this week I'd try and get my own big guns to come and join us. Considering they were going on national politics, I was going for the global theme. I asked Donald Trump to come, but unfortunately he was too busy shredding documents of his financial statements that he has to hand over. I asked Joe Biden, but they're looking for another laptop from his son that has gone missing. Did ask Boris, but he had a party to go to tonight. So unfortunately, I could only bring in my big gun. Well, potato gun is Stephen Bledsoe. Are you there, Stephen? All right, then. He's not there. He's disappeared.
Only joking.
How are you, Stephen?
I'm fine, Luke. You all right?
Yeah, well, obviously my throat, as everybody could probably hear, is flared up again. It's not been a great week. I've been busy and I've not been well.
Well,
but
you're sounding a bit rough, but you'll get through, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll get through however long. We also have a brand new face today on the live stream, and it's somebody that for the next 5 years, both myself and Steve will be working with on Litchfield Community Council. Today we have Lisa Lewis joining us. Welcome, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
That's great. Okay. Just so people know, you're standing in the council on Litchfield, thanks to the uncontested seats, which both me and Stephen got on this week as well. So a fellow Litchfield councillor. But you're also standing as a county councillor in Bracklow West Central, is it?
Yeah, Bracklow West Central, yeah.
That's it. And you're up against, I believe, our current mayor, isn't it?
No, I'm up against Arnell and Joanne Llewellyn Hopkins.
Yeah, it's Bracklow West.
Bracklow West, yeah.
Bracklow West.
I only know because she's my candidate and she knocked on my door when I was having my Sunday dinner today.
How rude and how inconvenient is that? Anyway, so we're going to get into it. It was the kickoff of the election this week, and the official kickoff of the election. It's been going on for a couple of months now, building up to it. But this week, officially on Tuesday, the lists were released, or Wednesday. I'm not really sure because the final day was Tuesday. So Wednesday morning, the official list was released of everybody who's been nominated to stand, everybody in community councils that have already been elected through uncontested seat. It doesn't mean there aren't elections still going on at community council levels. there are many seats still being contested, but there was a lot of seats this year that were completely uncontested, and we'll get on to some of them later. And I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, so that's kicked off, and we kicked off with obviously Labour bringing everybody or anybody they could with a significant name within Labour, and it hasn't got the best of receptions, not just from people like us from Bridgend County Independents or independents and anything, but people generally, because they are focusing on national politics at a local level. Now, we all know national does have some impact on the local level, but not as strong an impact of what your local council does. And I think it's very out of touch, and it's very naive. It's just bringing those people in for name recognition only, I believe. Is that what you believe? I'll go with Lisa first, seeing as you're new. Throw you into the lion's den.
Yeah, no, yes, definitely, Luke. I've been out like knocking the doors, and I'm aiming to knock every door in the ward. So I have been on the ground level talking to all the residents, and I am pleased to say that the residents that I've been talking to are basically they are knowing the difference between national and community. And the big thing is about it as well. I'm not going to bring the parties into it because I don't, I'm trying to keep away, basically from the party side of it. But obviously, when you're knocking on the doors, you are speaking to a lot of residents, and obviously they fetch into the parties, into the conversation. But I think this year there's a lot of change this year with people that I've been talking to, where Labour has obviously been influencing them over the years, and they've come to the point now where they can see through it all, and they voted Conservative last time, and they can see through the whole of that. And I'm just trying to get my message out to the people that I'm knocking the door and talking to, is basically look at the candidates in our area and pick the best candidate for our area, and try not to think about what is happening in Westminster, and because when you're talking to people, they automatically want to talk about Boris Johnson, and they want to talk about Jamie, and they want to talk about Mark Drakeford, and I'm trying to stay. I do have the conversations with them, but I'm trying to stay away from that and basically put on what local councillors can do and what we can do for our area. And that is what I'm trying to go with when I'm out knocking doors.
Which is exactly the right way it should be going on. It's no undoubted that I think, okay, if we're going to go on a national scale, if you're going to do that, the Welsh Assembly government has more influence over what happens in Bridgend than what Westminster does. And they've had their failings, they've had their successes as well, like any government does. But this Labour campaign is focusing exclusively on the national politics situation, which Boris Johnson having parties at the Chancellor of Exchequer's wife, who has got non-don status, but then that's got nothing to do with people who live in Bridgend. We want to know who's going to fix the potholes, who's going to sort out the parks, who's going to sort out the roads to make them safer, do our schools and other things like that. Westminster don't give a fudge about that, and really, nor does the Welsh Assembly government. They just say, here's your pot of money, do with it as what you will at the end of the day. So it was quite funny to see them all on there, and I don't think it's going to be the first time, because 5 years ago with Stephen and Martin, as it was then, Change for Bridgend made, and Slivery Independents at the time as well, and Porthcawl Independents, made a real inroad into what was Labour dominance. They had, 36, 38 seats the 5-year term before, and they went down to 26, I believe it was this time, which lost them overall control, and they had to rely on other people to prop them up from independent means or from other parties if they needed it. So there's been a real tide turning, and we've seen that shift, especially in community councils this time round, haven't we, Stephen? With Labour losing control of St Bride's Minor for the first time ever. They've lost. We'll, there's a little bit that goes with this. Whether it was they've abandoned St Bride, or as one post suggested from a Labour councillor, they completely forgot that they had to get nominated this time and just thought they were going to carry on being councillors after the election.
Well, I heard that rumor because there was a post and it was very swiftly deleted, but there was a statement. There was a statement saying, but what do you mean? We're already councillors. Why would we need to reapply? Which is just, it's next level. Is that? I mean, that's just. I mean, whether it's true or not, I've got no idea. But I mean, look, just on your point there, Luke, about what this election is about, I've got two documents in front of me. One I've got on my laptop, and the other one I've got in front of me. I'm not going to, I've got the document here. It's Freya and Ian's campaign leaflets, which has got their policies. And on my screen, and I've done this deliberately because you've made mention to what the Labour and the Conservative Party are trying to make this election about. But I've chosen the Plaid Cymru one. I've done that quite deliberately because I'm not standing against Plaid. I don't think there's many Plaid candidates. I think there's a couple in Brackla. But I've chosen this deliberately. Now, this is what Plaid Cymru are saying. Vote for Plaid Cymru on the 5th of May. Universal free school meals. Nothing to do with the council. Tackling the housing crisis. You could make an argument there's a little bit to do that with the council, but that's predominantly Welsh Government. Free childcare for 2-year-olds. Welsh Government. Taking control of our energy. Welsh Government. 4 policies on there, which are Welsh Government policies, nothing at all to do with local authority. Now I've got Freya and Ian's document in front of me. The safe reintroduction of controlled traffic into Queen Street and Raven Place and Market Street. Renegotiating our membership of the Cardiff Capital Regional Deal. To address the many parking issues and access issues we have happening around our ward. A planned, structured and maintained wildflower tree planting policy. To serve our communities by protecting school budgets. To install reverse vending machines. To introduce safe crossing points around the busiest parts of Oldcastle, to protect our sporting changing facilities to make sure that we never see scenes like this, and then there's the photographs that have been on social media, to tackle the issue of broken and run-down play parks to make them more accessible and better opportunities for all children. Now tell me who's taking this election seriously and who's talking to our residents with respect. Because Plaid Cymru, oh well done, Luke, you found it. But I've got the Plaid one in front of me, which talks about issues that have nothing to do with the 5th of May. Now, let's start talking. Look, Lisa, you and I met 5-6 weeks ago. I don't think we'd spoken before that.
No, never spoken to you before. No.
The passion that you have for Brackla West is off the charts. You run the Badgers Brook allotments. You do so much work for charities in the area. Now, you're talking to people on the doorstep about issues that will affect them on May the 6th, the day after the election. Yet our opponents want to talk about the national cost of living crisis, or, as you say, Partygate, or Rishi Sunak's wife. Plaid Cymru want to talk about things that have absolutely nothing at all to do with May the 5th. When are we going to have political parties that treat constituents and voters with respect? Because Plaid Cymru aren't. And I'm not picking a fight with Plaid Cymru. I chose them deliberately because I'm not standing against them. But I mean, am I able to share my screen, Luke, so I can show you the Plaid one? I don't know. I know Ian Spiller's really good at this.
Do you, on the bottom, you should have like a menu that says
share. Yeah.
And then you should go to share screen.
Share screen.
And you'll have a pop-up and go across to where it says Windows.
Yeah.
and you should see your window there that you can bring up.
Right, let's try this then. First of all, you might see the three of us again.
Well, it's not
Is that streaming?
Oh, hang on. Yeah, I've got to add it to the streamer. There we
Right,
go.
okay. There you go. You look at the difference between that and what Freya and Ian are putting forward for the people of Oldcastle.
Yeah, it's very basic, and a couple of things. Taking control of our energy. That's got nothing to do with BCBC at all.
No, it's got nothing to do with any council.
Apart from the energy contracts that they hold with energy companies to supply.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't affect the everyday user. Free childcare for 2-year-olds, that's a national government thing that councils will have to follow. So the council, again, would have no choice. It's something that's already there. Tackling the housing crisis. Okay, yeah, as you said, there is an argument to be made there that the social side of housing could be is done by BCBC with.
It's administered by them, but the policies are made in Cardiff Bay.
Yeah, but whenever they have a development, they say, "Oh, we require this many to be social housing,"
Unless they get Section 106 money, of course.
Yeah, and then universal free school meals again, Cardiff Bay.
Yeah,
which the universal free school meals, which has been expanded in the last 2 weeks. I like the way Labour are taking credit for it, but it was part of the deal that Plaid said we want if we're going to help keep you in power in the Senedd.
But here's the thing, Luke, as everybody knows, I stood in the Senedd campaign last year.
Yeah.
These are Senedd campaign issues. These are not local authority issues. And for me, it's just showing a lack of respect. Let's tell the people what the candidates who will be on the ballot paper in just over 3 weeks' time are going to do for the wards that they're standing in. Because none of that is within the power of any elected councillor.
No. And the only one they've got anything close to being having some form with is the building of new houses.
Yeah, but there's no details in that, Luke. I mean, I could say that. I'm gonna work on tackling the housing crisis. How? Well, I'm not going to tell you here, but I'm just going to use that headline.
But we've got that, and it does tie into, I suppose, a discussion I was having yesterday on Facebook. A post from Yvonne Knott about how BCI are putting out a manifesto, and I don't know how many times I've said this. I don't know how many times others have said this. We're not a party.
No.
You did it. The funny thing is, BCI have never done a manifesto. You did it 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. 5 years ago, you did one for 63 days, wasn't it? One every day every. And
it was ridiculous. I mean, I think we put out 10 policies a day for a week or something.
Yeah.
And some of them crossed over. But then, they come to you and say, "Oh, you're not putting any policies out." And then the second you talk policies, you're a party. You're talking. No, it's.
No. But the thing is, BCI have got. I'm loath to say members because you don't have to pay a membership. It's not a membership. It's essentially a support group, really, helping people. And you speak to, and I don't know who replied to a comment the other week, and Yvonne Knott thought it was crazy that the reply wasn't better, where somebody was asking, well, what are you going to do for us in this? And a BCI member replied as BCI saying, well, let us know where you're standing and we can put you in contact with the independent candidate that's standing there because they can give you a better idea of what they want for their area, which is a brilliant answer. It's a perfect answer. Your independent candidate is the one who's doing it because every independent candidate is going to have different ideas of what is most important in the area that they are looking to serve and what they hear on the doorstep. Yes, you can do a general consensus of what we'd like to do. I think the big one is the reintroducing traffic into Bridgend. A lot of, I know, BCI supported members want to do that.
Not all of them, though.
No, not all of them. Me, I was one that said
Exactly.
that says personally, I don't think it's right. I said that on the consultation many years ago, but it's something that the people overwhelmingly wanted. And if I was representing a community like that said this is what we want, then regardless of what I think is what they want, it's people that come first. Party should really not be any part of it at all. A party shouldn't be saying, well, we want this. But if you remember 5 years ago, Labour said they promised to get it done. After this was during the election 5 years ago. Oh, we'll promise we'll reintroduce parking, or reintroduce traffic into Bridgend Town Centre. Has it happened? No. But that's the thing. Every independent member, whether they're working with BCI or whether they're Slimby independents or post-call independents, each person in those groups will have a different idea of what is a priority for their area and what people want in their area, because they're the ones who are at the moment out knocking doors and getting the feedback on those on the doorstep. If it's like I said, if campaign, totally different argument, isn't it, Steve? Last year, because you have to consider the whole of Bridgend, which is a whole county, not just one simple area.
This whole attack at the moment of trying to paint Bridgend County Independents as a party is frankly laughable. Lisa and I didn't know each other 6 weeks ago, and we've had a situation. We're still in a pandemic where two of our members, I'm falling into their trap. Two of our supported candidates have gone down with COVID. They are isolating. They're still testing positive. They're worried that they're not getting the work done. Do you know what Lisa's done for the last 2 days? She's been out leafleting for one of the people who can't get out and do their own leaflets.
And that is what BCI is about. It's the activists part of a party without having to be responsible to whoever's on high saying, we've got to do this or do that. You've got to vote this way or that way. We've taken the good element of what a party is, where they can get people together to help support and get leaflets done in times like when somebody's not well with COVID or something like that. 5 years ago, my nephew was running around for a lot of people delivering leaflets as well. But that's what it is. We've taken the support side of what a party is without all the negative of party comes first, you have to do this, you have to do that. Really?
I know now that nobody within our group could ever tell Lisa what to say or do.
No, and the thing, nobody does anyway. Never have anyway. So that's just me. But like today, I've had some really, really good conversations on the door, Luke, and even with hard conservatives, I've had really, and I mean really positive, and they always say to me like, well, what are you going to do? And I always say, do you know what, there's not much that I'm not going to do, because I'm going to absolutely try and do everything possible to make not just my area, but the whole of different areas better. The thing is, Luke, I have been working on different projects. I can't go putting it all over Facebook because obviously mine is, it's not censored, but I can't go plastering photos everywhere because I haven't got consent for photos. But I mean, I've been working up in projects up in Rhondda Cynnon Taff. I've been working with Rhondda Cynnon Taff Council, and I got to be honest, what a fabulous council. They've been really, really supportive. I've got to be honest though. I've been working up in Pentlew, and I've been doing different projects all around Rhondda Cynnon Taff, and I mean up in Treorchy, Treherbert, over in Pentlew, over in Aberdare, down in Ponty, and also I'm trying to do my own stuff in the allotments by doing all the plant sales. I do a lot on the allotments, but I mean not for myself, but with the groups that I support. I mean, I do the community centre on a Friday down in North Kennelly, supporting different groups down there. But there's a lot of things that I want to say, and there's a lot of expertise that I have got, but I can't basically plaster, comments on Facebook, photos of like, I've done this and I've done that and I'm doing this, because I can't go, putting people on there that haven't given me consent for the photos. And I've got to be honest, the most of the photos that I take are of people doing stuff, and I've got to be honest, there's not many of me of them in there. So it is a hard call. But I mean, I had a really good conversation with the Conservative voter that would never vote Labour. And obviously this time now he's going to be voting independent. Like on saying, what are you going to bring to this area? Well, to me, all the different groups I run and all the different projects that I've done over the years, that is what I want to fetch to our area, but not for what I've been working with the disabled groups and the disabled people, but this time for the younger kids, for the teenage kids and the older people. I want to use these community centres that we've got that maybe, they're not being let out at certain times, to run groups out of that. I want to use the allotments to fetch people together. And somebody said to me, I did really make a good point today, and they were saying, well, why are you standing in one area and then standing in another area? And I said, well, it's all our area. Do you mean do? The Bridgend is my area. Sarn is my area, Brackler is my area. We're all saying this is my area, that's your area. Went together, we're all together. It's all our area. So I don't see why we shouldn't share our services with people from Sarn, or people where I've been working. I'm working with people from the Vale of Glamorgan, from Rhondda Cynon-Taf, from Bridgend. I mean, I've got people that I work with in Sarn, in Pyle, in Porthcawl. I don't say to them, you can't come because you're in a different area. To me, we're all one community. And that is where I think over the years it's been lost. And that's what I want to try and pull together, is that back to the community.
Well, going on that, I know we discussed before the stream, I can't remember if we discussed after I'm high up on meds, so I do apologise, everybody. But there's been a lot of comment on one of your posts this week about people standing in other areas, and this is the transition into that. Now, people, they've criticised BCI members who are standing in multiple community councils or areas they're not from. If you want to criticise anybody, criticise me, because currently at the moment, I don't even live in the county for now until next month. But I've been a councillor on Richard for the last 5 years. I wasn't going to stand, but there's so much work left to do after the work we've done for 5 years that I don't want to stop yet, because there's a big piece with the possible asset transfer of Richard Fields, the community centre, and Pendray Fields. There's such a big opportunity, but I don't want to see the people of Coity Hire get basically shafted and dumped with something that's going to be a liability for years. That is why I stood, is because I could see that coming. If it became controlled by Labour, that possibly what would happen. But didn't have to worry, because not one Labour candidate actually stood in any of the wards of Coity Hire this year. We've got 3 Conservatives. Everybody else has been independent. From Pendray and Litchard, all independents. I think there's 8 of us in total, all been elected on uncontested. Coity itself is having a contested election where it's got 6 independents and 3 Conservatives. Now, there seems to have been a theme that Labour just aren't interested in community councils anymore.
No.
There's less and less of them stand. Okay, Pencoed, they seem to have completely stayed there, because I think all but one member is Labour. I think there's one Plaid on there as well. So if you're watching Alex, I'm sorry, you're still not going to have fun with them for the next 5 years, or get any answers. But it's just strange that And it was a Labour member that started all this off, a Labour activist, or who started all this off, that people should stand where they're from, but yet didn't criticise other members, like John Spanswick no longer lives in Brackler for 18 months. He lived there for 30 years. I don't have a problem with people standing wherever they feel they can help, because especially in community councils, as Christchurch Higher has proved this year, that they've only got 2 councillors and will be in quorum. They haven't got any other election going on because not enough people stood. BCBC and Christchurch Higher are going to have to sort that out with appointments to that council now. Not enough people are standing in the areas. We've seen that with Litchard, where it was an uncontested election. The 3 of us and one other person, I can't remember the name, I've been so busy this week, stood unelected, and we've still got 1 seat, I believe, available, or not. Pendray, uncontested again. Not enough people are standing in these areas, so to criticise people standing in multiple wards or not even in that ward is wrong. People who want to do good for whichever community in Bridgend, whether it's me, I live in Cummer at the moment. I lived in Bridgend for 25 years. I'm coming back in May. I've been on Litchard for 5 years, and I want to continue to do good in Litchard. If I could, I'd have stood in Anasaldra again. I know I was there 5 years ago, and I had to step down because of personal issues at home, and I just couldn't do it. At that time, it was unfair on the people that to be an absent councillor on a councillor that needed every councillor there, that couldn't afford others to carry that weight at that time, because as we know, as Anasaldra, been in big trouble for the last couple of years, and whether you agree or not, people like Tim Thomas is there, Leanne, Tian Dyer, who are there, and Claudette Evans, who is not standing this year. Okay, it's not completely turned around, but it's showing the signs of moving in the correct direction, the right direction. And you've got to applaud that and those people who have stayed. So that came up, and I upset Councillor John Spanswick, just so you know, John. I'm not allowed to call him Spanswick. It's got to be John as well. That he only lives 100 metres away. But my point was, you criticise BCI for doing it, but you don't criticise the likes of Gary Thomas, who doesn't live in Brinkethin. He used to live in Sarm, didn't live in Brinkethin, lived in Sarm, and now he lives in Brintirian or up that way now. And there are many other councillors that do that. So you can't just criticise one side without criticising the other. So stop causing trouble, Lisa, with your posts.
No, the thing is, Luke. Right. I know in some community councils, they haven't got enough people to stand. No. And the thing is, with myself, I'm a very passionate person, and I'm passionate about loads of different things. Now, wouldn't the residents rather have a passionate person that wants the best for their area to stand than have nobody to stand at all, or to have somebody that is absolutely lazy to stand? Do you mean, if it was my area and I was given the choice, and you got a person that doesn't do nothing whatsoever at all for your area, or you've got a passionate person that lives outside of the area that would bend over backwards to do what is possible, then who would you pick? That at the end of the day, I think they've got a really good county councillor coming on their community council.
And I think that
the long and the short of it, Luke, is that whatever we think or whatever these Labour agitators feel, it's not up to us and it's not up to them. The beauty of this situation is the public decide. I don't hide the fact, and I know you spoke about this last week, or maybe in the week before. There was the whole thing of a group of people decided that cancelling Wartime Bridgend was wrong, because that's the decision that the BCI led town council had made. And if we'd made the decision the other way, then that would have been wrong.
Yeah.
So if people want to take offence or want to feel that something is wrong purely because of a way that a certain group of people have decided to do it, that doesn't matter. You know, I am from the Morva ward of Bridgend. I temporarily, as I made reference to earlier, live in Lisa's ward of Brackler. So I temporarily don't live in Morva, but I'm from Morva. I belong in Morva. When I lived in Wakefield for 10 years, I told people I was from Wildmill, a council estate in Bridgend, because that's where I'm from. Now, the people who live in Bridgend Central will decide with full information, full knowledge of the facts, whether I, as one of three people, as the best person to represent them. These people out on Facebook trying to dictate this narrative, this selective information narrative. David White is standing against me in Bridgend Central. I live possibly as close to the ward as he does, because he lives on the extreme end of Oldcastle, and I live on the near side of Brackler. Now, I don't know the exact distances, but I reckon it would be close. Now, should I be saying that David White shouldn't be standing in Bridgend Central? Absolutely not, because he's adhering to electoral law, as am I. And the public will decide. And the public may well decide that David White is the better choice to represent them. And if they do that, I will shake his hand and wish him well for the next 5 years. But what I won't be doing is engaging with people who are deliberately trying to just not discuss the issues. Because let's talk about the issues that this election is about. This election is about Arbed. This election is about the 7th highest council tax in the UK. This election is about potholes, delivery of services. This is not about where your candidate lives. And if our opponents want to discuss that, you're going to lose this election. Because the public, I'll give you a spoiler, the public don't care. They want to speak to the candidate. They don't want to meet Angela Rayner and have a selfie. They don't want to know all of these things that people are trying to make this election about. Because the one thing that Bridgend County Independence has been really good at is educating people about what the local issues are and why they're important. And people are really invested in this election. And if some people want to make it about stuff that doesn't matter, crack on.
There are some out there that say, well, all you're doing is moaning, and that it's not moaning, it's informing of what's going on, what's happening to your money, what your council are doing, whether it be CCRD, Arbed, scrutinising the Kia contract. That's what BCI have done for the last 5 years. People may be sick of it, but if we didn't do it, Conservatives haven't been doing it, Plaid haven't been doing it, Lib Dems haven't been doing it. Other independents have been, but it's the independents that get criticised for doing it. But yet, Labour criticise and scrutinise what opposition does in Westminster. Mm-hmm. But that's okay. Anyway, I want to go back to something that Lisa touched upon, where you're saying about lazy councillors in wards, and Brackler, where it was one whole ward before, they could get away with that. Now it's being split into 4 wards. They won't be able to hide as much.
No.
But my confusion is, why was Brackler split up? And then we've got places like Coity that's been made into a super ward. The Garrow's been made into a super ward. You've got Pencoed been made into a super ward. Why do that? Because that gives them councillors places to hide. It's like this year, the councillor for Litchard isn't standing, and for the last 5 years, I know the community council in Coity have been getting questions because they can't get hold of that council. I know both Richard Young and Amanda Williams have got questions from residents in Litchard because they can't get hold of their candidate. Their candidate basically is hid for 5 years.
Mm.
And it's strange. Why do that break up Brackler, but then create so many other super wards that you're going to have councillors that can hide and will hide? You know they will. And it's easy. If things are getting done and it's one councillor, let's say Amanda Williams gets in Coity and you've got Jamie from Labour and a Conservative that gets in as well. And Amanda, we know Amanda works really hard. And things get done throughout all 3 wards, and it's all Amanda's doing.
Yeah.
These other 2 can say, well, these things have been done. We were there, we were your councillors, but we know it's Amanda's done it, and they can get away with things like that. That is my problem with super wards, where you've got more than one candidate, because candidates can have more than one councillor, because a councillor can hide them and take credit then for things that do get done.
Well, the thing is with that, Luke, I think it's the same as in any job. Any job you do, if you're working in a supermarket or in, it could be anything whatsoever at all. There's one person that does it all, and the other people that don't. But it comes to a point then where you have got to give jobs to the people that don't do don't do it. They might not like it, but at the end of the day, that is their job. So if 10 referrals come in, then I'm not saying the Amanda won't, because I'm sure she will. She will say, right, well, there's 10 here, there's 4 for you, 4 for you, and we go for 12 then, and 4 for me. Do you know what I mean? It's got to, for it to work, it has got to be equal, and it has got to be fair. Do you mean if there is no I would like to think that Amanda would say, I've done 12 of these haven't done anything. But we shouldn't be leaving it to the election to be saying that. We should be saying it throughout.
Yeah.
Being open, honest, and transparent. So if you've got a lazy councillor, you need to be saying throughout the thing, well, he's a lazy councillor. Does it really, have you really got to wait to election to be saying it?
Well,
that I might be on a thing, but like when I was obviously in my job, I just say what I've got to say. So if somebody's not pulling their weight, at the end of the day, it's I'm not carrying all that weight neither. So yeah, if I'm working with a councillor, and we all give and take. Don't get me wrong. If the councillor's not well, we'll take it all. Do you mean to? If they're having an off day, we can go that little bit up above. But we can't keep working with lazy councillors for 5 years. There's got to be something else that we can do to say, right, this councillor is not actually doing anything. Off you trot. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I'm just saying.
Well, no, I completely understand, and unfortunately, the only metric we can have that we can see as a county, because yes, individually you may see, oh, that council did nothing for me when I asked them to do something, when I point out something's wrong. But as a metric to see, is the referral system. That is the only system that people have to see.
Well, let's not forget, Lisa. I can't remember if it was yourself or Fran that put the pictures up, but you're standing against Aniel Pacella in your ward, a councillor who hasn't put a referral in for 2 years, and then you had the photographs of the play parks in Brackler that had insulation tape holding it together.
Yeah.
How is it justifiable that a councillor has not put a single referral in for 2 years? When the play parks in the electoral area he is elected to represent are in that condition? That's a dereliction of duty. I'm sorry, that's a strong phrase, but how on earth are those play parks in that condition, and you cannot put a referral in for 2 years?
Well, I was. The thing was, hang on a minute. I was having a conversation with Howard earlier, which is my other half. And he said to me, the best thing to do if you get elected for the next, for the next 5 years, is to not leave it to go around knocking doors when it comes up to the election. You should be knocking at least half, not half the ward, but at least one street per month talking to the
Mhm.
to the residents within that 5 years, and to see what you can, what you can do and what you can change. Do you know what I mean? Because if it was me, yeah, I would do all the parks. I want a brilliant community centre. I want to plant fruit trees everywhere. I want to have clubs and all. But obviously, that is just me. But if I can't get the other councillors, to take on board, then I would do it myself anyway. Do you mean even if it meant that they were shooting me down, because it really couldn't shoot me down, I would just stand above it all and stand my ground and say, well, no. And hopefully by doing that, it would encourage them to follow suit. That's
and I totally agree with Howell there, Lisa, because I know you opened this up, Luke, by saying that the election period has started. My election period started on the 6th of May 2017 when I didn't win at BCBC last time, because I wanted to prove to the people over 5 years that I would be the right person in 2022. And I haven't stopped for 5 years. And I'm really proud that I haven't stopped for 5 years. As because I was going to use the word unpaid, but we can't say that. It's unremunerated councillor. I've been, there was a lot of backlash when I posted that picture of the situation in Wildmill with the selfies and the waste. And I get that quite regularly.
I was going to come on to that in a bit. So.
Oh, right. Sorry, I didn't know that.
We can do it now. We can do it now.
Well,
we can move
but
on to that now.
the thing is, Luke, I didn't go out of my way to post that picture. I was asked by a resident if I would publish an email that they had sent, because they wanted it to be in the public domain, but didn't want the backlash that would come with it. So I didn't have that email. Well, I did have the email because I was sent it originally. However, I reacted to a resident who took offense to the selfies and asked me to publish the email, because people wanted me, as the gobby one who covers the area, to make that public. And that's when, and that this comes back to what Lisa says. If you want to be a councillor, it's a very privileged position. There's two levels. One is unpaid, one is unremunerated, one is remunerated. But if you don't want to be a councillor and you're just in it for the title, then you're doing it wrong. I mean, Councillor Ian Williams in Oldcastle published some information recently, and somebody he's standing against has been a councillor for 5 years or longer, to be fair. His attendance for the last year is 33%.
Yeah. Well,
and can I just say something, Luke, before you go thing. The thing is, I have tried to get on Brackla Community Council a number of times. I've put in more than 2 applications over the years to get on there, and I've got to be honest, I've never had one vote to get on to that Brackla Community Council. Not that I haven't done anything in my area, because I'm a very big people chatty person in my area, and I do loads of things, from cleaning culverts to cleaning behind the back of the houses, to doing everything that you can planting out the front, hedgerows, 750 of them. You don't see that plastered over Facebook, but over the years, skips, and I mean, yeah, I even paid £200 out of my own money to get rid of tyres at £5 each. So that's what I do. But for all the work that I do in this area, I won't count it in my other job, but just basically around here, cleaning up. I mean, my boys have been out with litter pickers, and we have been on Brackla on the hub, where people be saying, look at the boys out litter picking. Yeah, that was my boys. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't an election. It wasn't trying to get onto Brackla Community Council or anything like that at all. But I have tried to get on there, and I have never had one vote. But yet I'm an active person in our community that does way more than anybody else that I can imagine in the community council. But yet they wouldn't vote me on because I'm not a member of a party.
I'm really, really glad you raised that, Lisa, because we've only known each other for a short time, but I was aware of those situations. Because one time you put an application in for co-option at the same time as Mark Payne. I
Well,
think
I
there was
didn't know
two.
Mark done it though. Do you
No,
know
no,
what I
no,
mean?
no, 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 absolutely. But neither of you got a single vote in that co-option. It went straight down party lines whilst they tried
Yeah.
to protect a majority on the council.
Yeah.
And
Every time.
absolutely. And there is, I don't know of two people in Brackler, perhaps Mike Punter being a third. I don't know anybody in Brackler that does more for the area than you and Mark Payne does. And in 3 weeks' time, the public will have their say. Forget co-options, forget everything else. In three and a half weeks' time, the residents of Brackler are going to show that the fact that neither of you got any co-option votes was an absolute disgrace.
Yeah. And the amount of people that I've talked to, I mean, in the vicinity around me, I've talked to like 147 people. It's more than that now. Do you mean, obviously I'm just talking in one area from door knocking. And honest to God, the response, I'm just hoping that all those people that said that they are going to go out and vote for me actually go out and vote for me, because they call me everything. Even call me the egg lady. Do you mean? Because obviously we sell some chicken eggs on the allotment. But yeah, and I've got to be honest, I have not had one. And I know Luke wants me to say the negative or whatever. But honest to God, Luke, I have never had one bad word of anybody at all. Do you mean? It has been so positive. And everybody's like, yeah, we go out to vote for you. Do you know what I mean? And it's like 100%. I come out of a street, and honest to God, I am absolutely, well, I'm up here. Do you mean? I'm absolutely, like, you can't even explain how when you walk out to that street, you think, do you know what? I can do this. And
I see all the WhatsApp messages.
And every time I go into a street and I walk back out, my confidence grows more and more every single time. Yeah. And not just that, I do know a lot of people in Brackler, and some of the people in Brackler are not even in our area. And they're over in different, in different areas of Brackler, and they say, oh my God, I can't vote for you. Do you know what I mean? So they're absolutely gutted because they can't actually vote for me. But like I say, look, you've got other good independent candidates standing in your area. You know what I mean? Have a look. And I always encourage people to look at the person, look at the people that are standing, and pick the best person to represent your area. Do you mean? Forget the parties, forget who stuff like that. It should be based on the person and who can do the best for that area, and that's all I just say. Is that?
I will.
Are we going to let him talk now, Lisa?
I will remind both of you I have power of mute here. I can mute you both at any time. No, I don't.
You should be there when me, Lisa, and Freya are there. Nobody gets a word in.
Wait for Martin to join that as well. No, I don't want you to say negative. I'm happy with the positive of things, and I think that's what it should be. But hearing you saying you didn't get one vote after trying a couple of times for co-option onto Brackler Community Council, and Mark Payne, okay, you may not be as visible on social media as you were saying, but Mark Payne was with the Save the Fields. It was Mark, wasn't it?
Well, Mark was one of them, but he's more around the Tremaines Woodland Rangers. He was involved in the Save Our Fields.
Yeah, and that just shows that these party councillors aren't looking who's best to help us do stuff. It's let's get the job for the boys. Basically, simply whether it's men or women, but the job for the boys situation, isn't it? And let's keep our own power.
I'm just going to stick the light on a minute.
Go for it. But yeah, Brackler it's a nice community. You've got some passionate people there that want to do good, but you've got some councillors, I'm not saying all are, there who have been there the last 5 years who have just let things go. Like you were saying, the council was with the park, where it's got tape on it. How has The basic thing a councillor should do is at least walk around their ward every month to see what they could just pick up without people having to tell them. How
Do you
is
know
this
what?
part gone unnoticed?
I heard an amazing story this morning. I was out leafleting in Wild Mill, and Councillor Alan Wathen joined me. Somebody else will be sitting with in Coity Hire, somebody you know very
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
And he said that obviously he's lived in Lichard for a long time, and there was a knock on the door, somebody he knows, and a party candidate stood on the other side of the door, and the resident opens the door, and the candidate says, "Good morning, I'm your local candidate. I'm here to ask you what issues you have in your area." And the resident said, "You're the candidate. You tell me what the issues are." And the candidate walked away from the door because they didn't have an answer.
I think I might know who that candidate is.
Yes, absolutely. However, doesn't that fundamentally show the problem with what we're doing here?
Yeah.
I don't need, Lisa doesn't need to ask people in her area what the issues are. I don't need to ask people in Morva what the issues are because we've been active within those communities. Ian and Freya, Tim and Steve Easterbrook, they don't ask the residents what the issues are because they've been active for so long. They've been working within those communities. It's we have to change, and I think we have. I think we are on the cusp of it, and it's quite funny actually. We obviously have. We're not a party, but we are a very active WhatsApp group, and the theme on the WhatsApp group is people whistling the Scorpion song, "The Winds of Change," and I think that's going to be our unofficial anthem on at the counts, because
it was an anthem of a revolution, wasn't it?
It was, and do you know what? I think I've done 120,000 steps in the last week. I've been just banging out leaflets, and Lisa and Howell have been and doing their fair share as well in an area they're not standing in BCBC. We have had, I know I put this online, I had a lady come running out of her door saying she's never voted. She was in her 40s, she's never voted before. She's excited to be voting on the 5th of May. I've had people hanging out of windows shouting down the street with encouragement. There are winds of change. There are people not buying this rubbish about national issues from the parties, from the London or the Cardiff-based parties. They don't go out and get selfies with celebrity politicians because they know those things aren't important anymore. Yeah. Getting people like Lisa voted into Brackla West is what is important. Getting Mark and Fran into Brackla is important because these are the people who will get stuff done. I know, with my hand on my heart, I know that if Lisa is voted to represent the area I live in, that she will not allow the parks to fall into that state of disrepair because she will scare people into fixing them. She will do the referrals and she will expect it to be done.
I'll even go and hijack a park. So, well, funny enough, I am taking a park apart. I know you think, what the heck is she doing now, taking a park apart? But I am actually taking a park apart in Rhondda Taff. And I went over and looked at it, and I was like, "Oh, I could do that. I could do that." So they were gonna, scrap it all. I'm like, "No, I can take that. I love this. I love that." Because I know it's only like bits of it was a big climbing frame and all different things like that. But I'm just thinking, why don't we just recycle the stuff as well? And I've got to be honest with you, Luke, even if I've got to put it in the allotment in the car park as a bit of a storage for temporary, I will. But yeah, no, I won't, because I will be visiting the parks. I will go around and visit all the parks. And I will chase things up. And I've got to be honest with you, Luke, if it takes me 6 months, it probably won't, but if it does, if it takes me 12 months, if it takes me 2 years or 3 years, do you know what? I will keep on and on until it's actually done.
I think what would be good with the referral service, because all we see is referrals gone in, but we don't see the outcomes of those referrals from BCBC. There should be, what was the outcome How many have seen resolution? How many are still pending? How many are not going to be taken forward? Because then that gives a better picture and a better information. But I see it all the time. There, on social media, you see councillors, especially high-profile ones in parties like Labour and Conservatives, that you do see them posting, "Oh, look what we're doing today! Look what we're doing today!" They do that through the 5 years. Stuart Baldwin's one who does it a lot. John Spanswick does it a lot as well. But this is up in Cairo, Chris Davis, I believe it was.
I was just about to bring him up, Luke. I was just about to bring up his page.
I've seen today the amount of things he's put on today, but not just today. He's only been in since the end of last year, and he's done such a lot of work in that short time.
But the referrals he's putting in, Luke, have been there for years, and you're wondering what on earth was going on up there before he was elected.
But not only that, if you look at the independent councillor up in, I want to say Nanty Moyle, is it? Up there, who got in at the end of last year as well, who was elected at the end of last year.
Was it Mary?
Yeah.
I think.
175 referrals in the 7 months that they've been a councillor up there. 175 referrals. What was happening before? I know the councillor there before has criminal trouble.
He's in jail, Luke, so I don't think you have to skirt around it.
He's in jail, and he's been. I remember seeing a post last year. This is what independents are, because I believe he was an independent, and they
unaffiliated.
No, they actually tried linking him to BCI.
I know,
because he was an independent. They go to jail. Well, one of the Labour councillors was very lucky. He never went to jail. Got prosecuted. Involving the Arbed scheme, because there was flat out tax fraud there because they used the VAT number that wasn't real.
Well, the police didn't feel there was a case to take forward, mind.
The thing is, Luke, the councillors have lost. What I am getting is the councillors have lost touch with the people. So, when a normal everyday person standing as the community councillor or the councillor walks into an area, the people obviously interact with that person, and then that person gets more referrals. Because they can communicate with the person. I'm not saying that the other councillor was hiding or whatever like that, but I mean, if you ask me, say like 4 years ago, who was the Conservative councillors on Brackla? Do you mean I could probably name 2. Do you know what I mean? And I'm quite honest, I think the people in Brackla are exactly like that. So when you've got one that's on, Facebook often and putting out these things like that, that is who the people contact.
Yeah, because they're accessible, they're visible.
Yeah, because they're accessible. So when you've got like an area of, like you were saying up in Lantymore, where that councillor has gone in now and had all those referrals, is because they are probably, more out there. So I'm not going to use the word normal, but they're walking into an area and people can say, "Oh, do you know what?" And they're here to help, and they can see that they are helping, so that they are, people then are going to them. So like when we were in Brackla and we was all like one big massive Brackla, do you mean the people would always go to one person, and there's exactly the same probably up with Amanda and with Tim. They see Amanda and they see a Tim, and they say, right, if we need something sorted, Tim will do it, Amanda will do it. They don't think of all, because they're the people that do it. The other ones that are standing, with like an Amanda and Tim, they probably wouldn't, the people wouldn't even know who they were.
I think a council nowadays has used every tool available to them. So social media's got to be used, because a lot of people use social media. They've got to go knocking doors still, because there's people out there who won't use social media, won't use a computer or a phone like that, especially the elderly. They've just got to be visible to everybody. in every way they can. And the social media at the moment is a big part of that. And if you look at the Nancy Moore representative, she shot up the table ahead of a lot of councillors who've not only just been there 5 years, but she's ahead of the likes of Gary Thomas, who's been a councillor for God knows how many years, on referrals.
I think that the key thing is, though, Luke, is that both of those councillors that you've named there, they've repaid the faith that the electorate showed in them. You know, the electorate put them forward in by-elections that were hard fought, and those two named councillors have repaid that faith, and they've done an amazing job that perhaps hasn't been done in the past. And I think credit to both of them. And look, I'm following Chris's page, and I'm amazed by how many things he's putting through. And he is showing that the outcome of that by-election, the only winner was the public, because they're getting so much repayment of the putting a cross in a box is fundamentally one of the greatest things that we have. Exactly. You know, it's a democratic right. It's a privilege. And, you know, going back to the Senate campaign, when 3,000 people put their trust in me, it was the most humbling thing I've ever had. And those people who put their trust in Chris and Mary have had it repaid. And there are some councillors who have been there for a long time who need reminding of that. They've been on easy street for too long. They've taken it. You know, I've seen figures that the Oldcastle Conservative Council put 90 referrals in 5 years. I think Chris has done more than that in 4 months.
Well, Mary up in Nantemore has done nearly double that in the 8 months she's been up there. So,
and referrals are not the only marker. They're not the only thing that we measure by, but they're important.
But they're the only things we can actually physically get data on.
Yes.
From the council.
Well, and attendance, but
and attendance, but the referrals. I think even if a council wasn't able to attend all the time and the attendance figures were down below 60% or something, if the referrals are up there, you know they're still working for the community, trying to get the community sorted.
Yeah.
So I can understand that. But this year is a first full council election that 16 and 17-year-olds can vote. Whether people agree with it or not, I personally have my reservations against it. One thing I did notice, which I thought was really strange, 16 and 17-year-olds can vote, but they can't stand. So how can you give somebody the vote, but they're not allowed to stand? Because I think more young people should be involved in, especially community councils, and getting them on the county council. Sorrel Dendy was the youngest 5 years ago, and it's unfortunate she's not standing again this year. As I noticed in the thing, and we've lost a lot of good councillors this year. Carolyn Webster's not standing. Richard Young, whatever people feel about him, Labour, I got on well with Richard, and I found that he was a very honest person and very good at his job, and he had a lot of knowledge. And it's a shame.
I've always got on well with Richard. He's a good guy. It's
a shame that we're losing councillors like that, but we can't deny Richard. He's been a councillor for 30 odd years. He's one of the long. He is currently one of the longest serving councillors on the council. He was part of the old Ogle Council or Bailgormon Council, whichever it was at that point. And he's done a lot of good, and I wish him well in his retirement, so to speak. I remember at a community council meeting that he said that when Stuart Baldwin was given his community's cabinet post, a few community councils later, he said, it's funny, I'm not the community thing, but I'm still doing a lot of the work that I was doing before, going with the veterans for the RAF and other things for the forces veterans and things like that this community's post was encompassing, and he was still doing them when he wasn't the chair any of the communities, which Stuart Baldwin was. So, and this was a general. He'd had his illnesses over the years and things, but he's getting. It's later in life for Richard, and he's winding down his career. That's why he wasn't community's chair, and is given to a young up and comer in Stuart Baldwin, someone that they've got a lot of faith with, got a lot of hope for the Labour, and yet we're still letting councillors like Richard Young do the work of what he was. Stuart Baldwin was supposed to have taken over, and I'm going to miss Richard on the council. And I wish everybody who's not standing this year the best of luck. Who's stepped down, because we've lost a lot of councillors this year. As I said, Carolyn, Sonny Ross is not standing this year. Or Sturman, is it? I believe she's not standing. I didn't see her name on the paper. Nicole Burnett's not standing this year as well. So there's going to be a lot of change within the county. Look, I'd like to say let's hope it's independence, but I think more importantly, let's hope it's somebody who's passionate, works hard, and does the best for the people that vote for him, regardless of whether they're independent or party.
Let's hope that the best people in every ward get voted in, Luke. You know, let's for the right reasons, not because they don't live in the ward or not because Rishi Sunak's wife is a non-dom, but the best people in the ward are elected to represent the people, and they do the best job possible within an organisation that spends over £1/3 of £1 billion a year.
Well, they're creeping closer to £500 million.
They are,
now.
yeah. But that's what this is about. This is about the best people representing the people of designated wards and working together in BCBC.
Oh yeah, it's clear that there needs to be a change. If not a change in people running the council, whether it's but a change in attitudes of those who run that council, because for the last 5-10 years, maybe even longer, it's a safe. We know we're not going to lose our jobs, so we don't really have to work hard. We don't have to do what people want us to do. We do what we think we want to do.
The winds of change.
The thing is, Luke, as well, right? I was talking to a gentleman today that was over in Longacre, and he said to me, obviously his next door neighbour I've just come back from London, and he is a Conservative voter. He was a Labour, he voted Labour all his life, but on the last election he voted Conservative. But what he basically, because he reckons it was just a two-party, because it was basically over Brexit. So it was either you're going to have to vote Labour if you wanted to stay, or you was voting Conservative because you wanted to leave. But this year he was like, no, this year now it's a different, it's different. So this time now he's voting Independent. So the thing is, there is a change, and I think a lot of people last time, Luke, was doing tactical voting, and I admit, I hold my hand up, I was doing tactical voting myself. Do you know what I mean? But this time now, there's no tactical voting in there. You know what I mean? We've had Labour now for 20 years. I don't see anything, nothing at all. Do you know what I mean? There is nothing fresh that's coming out of Labour that inspires me one bit. Do you know what I mean? And obviously we've got the Conservative. So in our area, by voting for an independent candidate that is, that is very passionate, that will do for the best for their area, I think people are coming around to seeing. There's not a party. We're individual people passionate about different things that come together on different subjects. We're not all going to agree, and we never all are going to agree. But the thing is, with the people now that have voted on the previous votes, they voted tactical. Do you mean to know? You've had hard support Labour supporters turn into Conservative, and you've had Conservative voters, voting Liberal Democrats, so they am going to vote Conservative and they am going to vote Labour. But we're in local elections now, and I just want to remind people, it's local elections. and we need to vote for local people and vote for the best person that represents your area, because that is how you are going to get things done.
It's not a case of vote. It shouldn't be a case of basically familiar voting, or as in familiar as family voting, how your family have voted year on year on year. Nationally, okay, do that if you feel that that's best. But local is a totally different animal. It's totally different. The budgets are nowhere near, and the issues are what affect you as soon as you step out your front door. They're
But
not.
the thing is, Luke, people don't realise that when you're
No.
actually talking on the door, they don't think of things like that, and that is why I'm actually talking to people to actually, to say that it's local elections, it's local people. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what Boris Johnson done last month, or what or any of them is basically doing. And that is, and when I actually talking to people, I think I'm actually getting that message through. And the other message that is not really coming into effect is that they don't think Bracknell's been split into 4. So a lot of people, when they go to this polling station on the 6th of May, is going to have a heck of a shock when they look at the piece of paper who they're going to be voting for, and the person that they're going to vote for is not on there.
But let's hope they don't. They do realise that they only get one vote on that ballot now, not 4.
It will say that on there, like you mean, but a lot of people, they don't realise that, Luke. They think they're going to go to the polling station and they've got a choice of 4 or 5 Labour candidates, or 4 or 5 Conservative candidates, and the 4 or 5 independent candidates. But when they get there, because we're going into a 1 ward now, they are just going to be looking at that piece of paper with 3 candidates on there. And if those other candidates are not out, knocking doors, talking to people, and being here, there, and everywhere, when it comes to going to that polling station and then putting that the cross on the box, they're not going to have a clue who the other candidates are.
No, and what you're doing on the doorstep, I'm doing in forums, which is getting me banned from the Labour page, is getting me banned from other forums, is where they're banging on about the cost of living crisis. I mean, I'm putting out, informing people that it's not just Conservatives, it's this historic thing going back to at least after the Second World War, where the coalition decided we'll pay for France's war effort to the Americans, we'll pay their debt, and we'll pay Russians' debts. And it's been successive governments from years after years. Harold Wilson in the 1960s shutting down more coal mines than Margaret Thatcher ever did. And then you've got in the mid-70s the rolling blackouts being held to ransom by unions. Then the pound minutes from collapsing and being completely devalued, using North Sea oil to prop that up. That's why Wilson resigned and James Callaghan came in and lost to Margaret Thatcher in 1979. Margaret Thatcher selling off public companies into private ownership. Yes, that didn't help, but she had no choice. And then you had Labour in 1997, which created the FSA, which got rid of a lot of regulations on banks, which left them unprepared for 2008 crash. I'm saying, yes, Conservatives now with austerity, there are reasons why they had to do austerity, and there are reasons why we're in a cost of living crisis, but it hasn't happened overnight. It's been successive governments, both Labour and Conservative, for the last 50 years that have led us to this point. So don't take what Labour is saying as, this is what's happened, this is it. It has nothing to do with this local election, and it's getting me banned on pages everywhere. It got me into an argument with Chris Elmore. He wants me to come and speak to him at one of his surgeries as well. I'm not a constituent. Come and speak to me on my live stream, and he won't do that. So it's. I'm trying to educate people that they're focusing on a national issue, but here's the whole picture of that national issue. It's not just happened overnight with energy companies. It's not just happened overnight because of a pandemic. It's been a systemic problem that's happened, built up over years through deregulations and not learning from mistakes of past governments. So take that completely out of picture when deciding on a local issue, because local issues is, I got a pothole in my street, my park's falling down, there's a tree branch that's overhanging my house that could fall in bad weather. Pavements are not there, or pavements need to be built in certain places. That is what these issues are about, not whether British Gas are putting up electricity prices, because BCBC has no influence, no say on that whatsoever. It's the same with free school meals. BCBC has no influence, no say on that whatsoever. Transport, they've got public school transport, they've got a little bit of leeway. They don't have to stay strict to the guidelines. They can go beyond, like they did for 4 years. And then last year, they decided to get rid of that and go with the guidelines. But that's what I'm saying. And one big issue is Wild Mill with the rubbish, and that come up again today with one of your posts. And somebody saying, why don't they just put their bins out on bin day? But it's not just the people who live in Wild Mill that are putting the rubbish there. It's people from all over the county. And last year, during your campaign, the Senate, you had Sarah Murphy doing a post there, and the Heritage Tribunal would say, we've got a big plan for Wild Mill. A year later, where's that plan? What has happened? What have they done?
Well, the honest answer is nothing has happened.
No.
And nothing has happened for 5 years. And I really wish that I was making this part up. But, you know, in a council meeting, it was accepted that communal waste areas were forgotten about when it comes to the care contract.
Yeah.
But look, mistakes happen. How you deal with those mistakes is the mark of an organisation or a person. But the people of Wild Mill and Heel do Rhine and other areas where there are communal collection points have had to live surrounded by this for 5 years. I get a lot of messages through my Facebook page, you know, because I ran the Senate campaign. My Facebook page has a lot of people who follow it, and you know, I'm the same as Lisa. I don't talk about a lot of work that I do. I help a lot of people not in the area I'm elected to do, and I don't make reference to it. But today I've had a lot of people contact me from areas that have communal waste collections, saying that they're having an increased rat infestation because of what's going on down there.
I think one lady posted on there and said she had them falling through a ceiling where the cladding hasn't been done properly by BCBC.
See, my issue is, Luke, with these communal waste areas, and you know, if I don't get re-elected to Morver at either level, Morver at Town Council or Magen Central and BCBC, I will look back on the 5 years that I've been elected, and it will be dominated by the waste in Wild Mill. It's not within my remit as a town councillor. However, I've got a big gob, and I've been the voice of this issue. And I was talking about this waste tourism, which apparently is a phrase that BCBC don't like. So I'll use it even more. That people travel into the area to dump their excess waste. It's been going on for 5 years. For 2 years, I was called a liar and told it didn't happen when I had evidence. And I submitted evidence that it had happened. But what frustrates me even more is that people I class as friends have had to live surrounded by that for 5 years without an acceptance that a mistake has been made. Now, the mistake is simple. The mistake is that between approximately 20 houses, there are 5 communal wheelie bins to deal with cardboard, food, and all the different breakdowns, the plastics and stuff like that. Now, people know that the day after they're emptied, they're refilled because there's not enough of them. So the day after they're emptied, everyone rushes out and fills them again. So if you go 2 days after the collection, then you can't get your stuff in. So you put them in a black bag. And then where do you put them? Because, you know, the houses in these areas are not the largest, so you haven't got room to store them. So you put them in the waste collection areas, And then it's exacerbated by people traveling from neighboring communities to dump their excess rubbish there because, you know, again, spoiler alert, these signs that have got a CCTV camera saying, you know, don't dump here, you'll be fine. There's no CCTV cameras there. And that's evident. So, you know, that photograph I put up today was upsetting to me because I grew up in Wildville for the first 21 years of my life. And it was never like that before the Kia contract. Now, my challenge to BCBC, and I've been saying this for 5 years, more wheelie bins so that we're not forcing people not to recycle, and or more collections. Because 99%, 95% of people I talk to in Wild Mill want to recycle more, but they're not given the tools to do it. If you're not going to give the tools to do it to the people, then they're not going to do it. So you've created the problem, so fix it. Because you are making people's lives a misery. It's right by a river. It's not rocket science to know. You know, and a couple of years ago, I did the whole thing that those bins, those food bins, had not been cleaned for 4 years. So there was food residue all over the bins. And I challenged a BCBC officer that I saw on the site who told me that the residents should clean them themselves. It's very emotive, it's very upsetting, and it's wrong. And it's upsetting to me because it's upsetting a lot of people who I class as friends. And it's not right, and something has to change there. And if I am elected, Lisa's very passionate about her community. And if I get elected, that is 1.1A of what I do on day one, because it has gone on for too long, and those who have been in a position to change it have not remedied it, and that is their legacy. And I know that I'm passionate about this. I post about it on a monthly basis. It has defined my 5 years as somebody who's not charged with dealing with this. It's an absolute disgrace what is going on there.
And something as basic as an issue of waste disposal should not be an issue that is dominating anything for 5 years.
Luke, I owned a food production company in Bridgend. If I didn't clean my bins for 4 years, I would have been issued with an improvement notice. I actually reported BCBC to Shared Regulatory Services for not cleaning their bins, to be told that Shared Regulatory Services had no powers to take any enforcement action against themselves.
And the thing is, Luke, as well, people do come from different areas and dump rubbish.
Oh yeah.
I've had it myself. One day I left the gate open, and I come in to make a cup of coffee, and I went back out, and there was 20 black bags there. Do you mean to know? Well, of course, you know, being thing, I opened the black bags thinking, where's this from, like that? And I found an address in it from Pyle. But when you can imagine now, like, what is Pyle doing, dumping rubbish up in Brackler on the allotments? So obviously I reported to the council, thing like that, but they won't do nothing about it then, because obviously you're tampering with bags, and I could have put somebody's address in it from Pyle, which I wouldn't have done anyway. Do you know what I mean? Do you know? But I mean, some days I've walked out there, and I know you're probably going to laugh at this, but I've gone out there one day, and there was a wheelchair and a Zimmer frame out, you know, just in the allotments on the path. So it's like if somebody, you know, do you know, like a gentleman is walking on a Zimmer frame, yeah, and you know, and his wife is or something is in the wheelchair. Well, it was just a wheelchair and a Zimmer frame. So I thought that somebody had come to the allotments, you know, with a Zimmer frame and in a wheelchair, and they had, you know, left them there, and they were just gone around and done their, you know, looking at the plants or whatever. But it was nobody. It was nobody's wheelchair. Obviously, it was somebody's, but they thought it was just a good idea just to wheel the wheelchair in, put a Zimmer frame there on an allotment. So, you know, people do dump rubbish from different places. And I mean, I've gone out there one day, Luke, and honest to God, I've had a 16-foot trampoline chucked over a security, our green security fencing. I mean, and that wasn't just one person doing that trampoline, do you know what I mean? Because it was absolutely massive. There must have been at least 3 or 4 of them. And I've gone out there, and this trampoline has appeared. So people are going around, especially from, why would people from Pyle come to Brackler to dump all that rubbish in the allotments?
I can talk about this now because we're no longer in COVID, and I had to weigh up whether I made this public or not, and I chose not to. During COVID, I was called down to Wild Mill because there were some black bags dumped, and I opened up one of the bags, and there was a letter in there addressed to somebody in Kevin Glass. And I reported it to BCBC with photographic evidence to be told that I was not an officially recognised data capture person on behalf of the council, so that information could not be used to prosecution. So I asked BCBC to go down themselves and inspect it because I hadn't tampered with it, to be told that we're in COVID, we can't open black bags.
Yeah.
So for 2 years, and I didn't say it at the time, because obviously if I'd said it, it would have encouraged other people to do it. And that's something I weighed up. If I made that public, it would have been a green light for everybody to just go and dump because BCBC weren't opening bags. But people were dumping black bags in Wild Mill. I was reporting it with evidence. And because I'm not an official data capture person, it couldn't be submitted as evidence. And for 2 years, they didn't do it themselves.
Well, when I rang them, Steve, right, they didn't even, to come in and, have a look at these bags, because believe it or not, I had only opened one and found, a address from Pyle in there myself. And I hadn't touched the others, but they didn't even respond. They didn't even come out. I caught the bin man, which I got to be honest, he's very good. And I explained to him, look, this has been dumped for you and the thing like that. And I put him out there, and he did take them all. Do you know what I mean? But it could have been the thing of where, like we're allotments, we're a charity where we would have to pay somebody to come and collect these bin bags because somebody has put them on the allotment, because the council basically, they didn't want to know. They didn't want to come and pick them up. They didn't even want to look into the bags or anything. To them, it was just a complete and utter waste of time. But to me, it was my time they took, because I had to ring the council. I had to go and get the bags. I had to store them in my front garden. And then I had to, wait for the bin man to come to ask him nicely if he could actually take, the bags, which obviously lucky enough he did. But I mean, we could have ended up paying for that.
And that's actually the most offensive part of what's going on in Wild Mill, because of the asset transfer that happened between BCBC and Valleys to Coast. That photograph that I put up this morning, Luke, is actually Valleys to Coast land. It's not BCBC land. So I can't report it on Fix My Street to BCBC. I have to report it in an email to Valleys to Coast. Now, Valleys to Coast now have to go and collect that waste. They have to pay somebody to go and collect that waste. And what's most offensive to me is that they have to pay somebody, a licensed waste remover, to dispose of that waste. Yeah. BCBC won't even take the waste off Valleys to Coast at our civic amenity sites. Wow. So Valleys to Coast have to pay to dispose of rubbish which is created because of an issue that BCBC have caused. Valleys to Coast are a not-for-profit organisation who charge their residents a service charge. So the residents of Wild Mill pay to deal with fly tipping. If somebody fly tips outside my house in Brackler, I can ring BCBC and it's dealt with. But we're talking about people who live in one of the most socially deprived areas who pay a service charge for nice things. Service charges are designed to pay for extras, not dealing with fly tipping. So BCBC have created the issue and completely washed their hands of dealing with the outcome, because Valleys to Coast have to pay to dispose of the waste that's dumped in Wild Mill because of an issue created between BCBC and Kia. and the people of Wild Mill, A, have to live with it, B, have to pay to remove it. And it is part of the legacy of this administration, something that they've created that has made people's lives worse. And you knew what you were doing when you called me on here tonight. You know how passionate I am about this.
Excuse me, it was you who contacted me in the week and said I want to
Whoa,
get
whoa,
something
whoa,
off my
whoa, whoa.
chest.
Yes. Well, it's wrong, and this
It
is what
is.
this is what this election is about. This election is not about free school meals for 2-year-olds because it doesn't affect this. This is about people who live in social housing. It isn't just Wild Mill. Freya and Ian are working so productively with those who live in Heald Rhine, who have, I've been sent videos of 20, 30 rats climbing out of bins there. And it's not right. In 2022, if that's what year we're in now, I lose track, that this is happening in our community now. And something has to change because it's that those situations are political will situations. You elect people to deal with stuff like this, and if you don't, then every 5 years you get a job interview, and that's what we're coming up to now. We're coming up to 51 job interviews.
I also think certain areas of the county have been very, very lucky with the issue of fly tipping, where BCBC doesn't need to get involved because of so many unadopted streets within the county. Now, if fly tipping gets dumped on there, it's again not BCBC problem, which would affect Park Derwent areas, a lot of areas of Broadlands, because BCBC are very, very, very slow to adopt these streets. Now, they'll be very quick if people on these streets say, well, you don't give us any services on these streets, so therefore we're not paying council tax for it. We'll pay the money to Persimmon all that, because they're the ones that do things for us. They're the ones that clear the streets, repair the lights or whatever, because you won't adopt it. Yet the only thing you give us is a bin service that comes around and takes our bins every month, which the council would soon be quick to say, well, no, you can't do this because that's not how it works. But they're quick to say that's how it works when it favours them. Like, oh, we can't clear up your fly tipping because it's an unadopted street. It's up to Persimmon or Taylor Wimpey or any other house builder who's still in control of that area, because BCBC is slow on the uptake of adopting streets, especially.
Yep. But where's their incentive to take these responsibilities on? These people don't get a discount on their council tax, do they?
No, but that's what I'm saying. If people started turning around and saying, okay, well, you're only providing me with a waste service, you're not providing me with the street lights, you're not providing me with a repair of roads when it's needed, or repair of footpaths, or even the cutting of grass in my area. So,
well, you actually touch on quite an interesting situation there. I had a letter from our MP, and I use that phrase quite liberally because I know it's not a letter from our MP, it's a letter from one of his paid employees, telling me that he had noticed that there were some lights out in my street and reported it to BCBC for action.
I live on your street that's not adopted.
On my street, which is not adopted, and the management company are responsible for. So I sent him, you know me well enough, Luke, I sent him an email asking him, what was the progress on this? I will get back to you on the progress as soon as I receive a reply.
He's going to be waiting a long time.
He's going to be waiting a very long time. But isn't that a misuse of public money?
Yeah.
Stop electioneering on Westminster. I've probably got it here somewhere on Westminster letterhead. Let's stop insulting people. This is an unadopted road. The management company have the responsibility for the lights. Stop pretending.
It's like this. I think in the last couple of days, BCBC have added an extra active service to their online account thing, reporting basically what fix my street was that you can do it through the council now. And we wonder how long that's going to take, because it's...
But the thing is, Luke, yeah, obviously, you know, down on the roundabout down there by the Hayway, right? You probably know where the Hayway is and the roundabout. We've had some potholes on that you know, on that stretch, and I mean, some of them was quite deep. And I got to be honest, one day they wasn't there, and then 3 days later they were there. That's how quick these potholes came. It's a really busy stretch of road, so you can imagine how, you know, our little thing goes into a big pothole. Well, anyway, they come out and fixed it. But you should see the state of well, they fixed it. I'm not being funny or nothing, do you mean? But I could have done a better job. My kids could have done a better job, like, do you mean to know? And they haven't even put like tarmac in. They put like I swear to God, it's like concrete. So and it's not even filled to the, you know, to the top of it. They've just thought, oh, we've got this little bit now. We'll put this little tiny bit in this. You know, in this pothole, and they must have left like that much now, and that is not going to be, every time a car goes over that and goes down it, it's going to take that, whatever that little tiny bit in they put in there, it's going to take it back up, so they'd be back out fixing it again. But I mean, the roundabout over by the Hayway and over there now, I have noticed that it is going really bad. It's not just in one section, it's the whole section, you know, going around it. But by filling little tiny bits in of concrete, because it's definitely not tarmac, because it's, you know, to me it does look like concrete. It's not going to help at all. We're going to have a little bit of rain now, and it's all going to be out again. And it's, well, I don't even know if they've done it. If they do it tidy in the first place, I don't see why they've got to put it in less. Do you mean to know, than the actual hole? They should be filling it so it's higher than the hole.
I think Martin may be able to answer this, Martin, if he's still on the chat. But I think they have to put a base in first and then cover tarmac on top. And it seems
so
like
they've just
got
putting the bases in there.
Yeah, and I think that's got to settle. If Martin, if you're on stream, if you know better than I do, because being civil engineer and things like that, I think they do put bases in. But it makes you wonder how motorways don't get these potholes.
But the thing is, it's about standards. I don't know whether you ever go to Cheapside, you know, where the Aldi is and the police headquarters. There's these little bell things that are around where the trees are to stop cars driving over it. Next time you're there, have a look. That's all. It's indicative of everything. And when you come down the bottom of Free School Court, there's some I can't remember if it's the lamppost or if it's the street signs, but these things are installed and they've got little lines on that say ground level, both of them, and they're about 3 or 4 inches above the ground. Now those have been signed off by BCBC. Now, if the manufacturer of a product is telling you where the ground level is, and the contractor that's been given the work has not done the work to the standard that the manufacturer has said it should be, and BCBC will go along and say, that'll do, because there's an old adage in life, that'll do never does. And whenever there's a that'll do attitude, that's where things go wrong. And it's exactly what Lisa's just referred to there. When it comes to a pothole, that'll do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. We've got to have standards.
I am hoping, Luke, that they are going to fill it in tidy, but I'll hold my breath on that. Do you know what I mean? Do you know?
Well, it's funny they have that attitude of that'll do to things that they have to do, but when it comes to the, as we were mentioning earlier, adoption of streets, it's very strict before they've got to tick every box, and there's not a that'll do attitude when it comes to something they have to take over.
Well, if we look at Park Derwent, we all know that Park Derwent was done backwards, so that they can't adopt the first road until the end road is done. But no, you should do it so that you do it as you go along.
Well, that was just a nightmare from the start. The school, the building from the back forwards. It should be forwards back. It was just a nightmare from the start, and
We've
I
got
don't-
all this to look forward to, Lisa, over the next 5 years.
yeah,
Well, the thing is no forward thinking at the moment, is there? So that they can't see the whole picture. If it was forward thinking, yeah, then they would have put the school in, they would have put the park in, they would have put the roads in and the infrastructure and all different stuff like that before they even started building. There was no forward thinking on the school because obviously the school is too small, and that's why there's a knock-on effect of everything. And basically where I am here now in Brackler, the school, the Welsh school, is going to be moving over into the Coity part, but this school year is a category D school because it's got defects of it's supposed to be the metal work is rusting and all that on it. So it's got a repair bill of about £180,000 to repair this
but
Brewargo school.
that's
So if they
BCBC's fault for not doing the repairs when they were needed.
Exactly.
But that's why Heronsbridge School now has got a £1.2 million repair bill. So they're going to build a new school instead.
But my point is, Luke, right? I heard, and I don't know if it's true, do you know what I mean? That they were going to turn the Welsh school into an English school. Yeah?
Yeah.
But I personally think that BCBC is going to sell this Welsh school to like a Wales and West or housing association thing, and they're going to use that money for Coity to build it bigger. Do you mean don't get me wrong, I might be absolutely wrong, but I can't see BCBC putting all that money into a category D school for to do that.
The thinking for it is they can't expand Coity Primary as much as they need. So the thinking is build a new Welsh school, give the Welsh school a brand new building, and it's right on that roundabout just before the cemetery.
Yeah.
For the roundabout before the cemetery, which is going to cause major problems anyway. But they're going to repair the new school because they can repair it, but they won't repair it because it's a Welsh medium school. And they'll turn it into an English medium school for the overflow of Coity, the overflow of what will happen in probably Brackler and other places, because Coitchurch Primary is full now as well, and it's getting more and more difficult for them to say. Plus, that school would be within that 3-mile limit of them having to transport children to it, so children would have to.
The thing is, Luke, I have concerns about that. Do you mean to know? Because at the moment, the Brewargo, the Welsh school, most of the children in that school are busting on buses, right?
Yeah.
So we get about 15, maybe 17 buses, and I mean big buses now. 52-seater buses, and where all these kids are coming in, we get mini buses, and all are going into the Brewargo school. If that school is turned into an English school, yeah, how many more cars are we going to have out on these roads out here? Do you mean the thing is, Luke, as well, we've had 2 accidents as well this week. Do you mean on the main road where these kids are, where the school is? And I mean 2 where they've taken out a concrete bollard, taken out, the police, the sleeping policemen, they've been taken out. We've had 2 accidents on it involving, 2 cars each time. That school, that Brewargo school, is on an island by itself, right? There is no safe crossings or anything for these kids to cross to that school or whatsoever at all. The way they're coming down the main road of Prince's Way from the triangle, they come down, they don't even stop at the roundabouts. They're not even doing 30 miles an hour. And you expect our kids from this area to cross those roads to go to that school. I think if that goes into an English school, we're going to have more problems than what it is now being the Welsh school.
You get rid of the buses because they'd moved to the Welsh school.
But the amount of traffic of cars where people are driving here, do you mean to drop their kids off? That is going to. not just that, it's the speed of the traffic, Luke. Do you mean that school is on the main in and out? Yeah, it's on the main
road.
It's the main road of Brackler.
But there's other issues here as well. We kind of know. Look, Brewarger is moving across to where Shepherd's Vets is because there's money from Welsh government for Welsh medium school buildings. Brewarger is going to become an English language school to handle the overspill of Park Derwen, because councillors in Coity said at the time that school was too small. Now there are more houses being built on there than was planned in the first place, when they knew that the school was too small. So the answer to that then apparently is that we're going to put an English language school on the site of Brewarger school. Now, not many people realise this, but Brewarger school is very, very close to Penabont school.
Yeah,
so are BCBC saying that people who live close to the English language school, around where you live, Lisa, cannot attend Brewarger, have to attend Penabont, but people who live in Park Derwen, which is further away, attend the Brewarger school? Are they really treating us with that level of disrespect to say that they're going to take people from Coity to teach them in Brewarger, but people who live by Brewarger have to go to Penabont? They're not fixing the problem that they've accepted that they've created.
It's moving the problem around the county. That's all.
But what it's doing is it's not fixing the problem of people who live in Park Derwen who don't have an English medium school, because they're still going to be going to Lichard. They're still going to be going to all of these other places, because if Brewarger becomes an English language school, it will be taken up by people who live around Brewarger English language school.
Yeah, but the thing is, Steve, right? If they were going to do that, right, and the people from over in Coity was going to walk to the new English school, they have got to, when they come up to Shepherd's the Vets for there, they have still got to cross 2 dual carriageways.
Yeah.
Do you mean where you come up to Shepherd's the Vets on one roundabout? Do you mean they're not going to walk all the way right around the roundabout, because if they do, then they'll come to a part where they've got no pavement.
Yeah.
Do you mean so they're going to have to cross that main, either the dual carriageway in both directions or cross the main road in Brackler together. So there's no way, people are not going to walk from over there to over here. There's, and cross those roads as well. You can't say to your kids, even if they were 10, you can walk to school, because you're not going to leave them cross those roads.
I think the idea is anybody coming from Coity, from Park Derwen, will use Trevor Casteth and Gather Casteth as a cut through, avoiding the industrial estate and coming on to Brackler that way.
No, but Luke,
walking down that way.
But then are they saying that those who currently live around Brewarger who go to Penabont can't go into Brewarger because Brewarger is exclusively for those in Park Derwen? Or are those in Park Derwen going to have to go to Penabont to fill the gaps that are created by those who used to go to Penabont who are now going to Brewarger? It's a mess. And it comes back to this lack of strategic thinking on the fundamental of what a council is, which is about infrastructure. Infrastructure in this county is absolutely disgraceful. It's a farce. Because we're all talking about 1,000 houses on Lalliston Circus Field, or 1,000 houses in Island Farm. But we're not talking about more comprehensive school places. We're not talking about new road infrastructure. We're not talking about new facilities for Welsh Water to deal with the sewerage. We're not talking about any of those things. We're talking about shiny 2,000 houses, 8,500 houses, I think, is the latest estimation in the next 10 years.
Which you've got the estimation of 8,500 houses, but not one guarantee of an extra doctor's surgery or dental surgery, because they don't fall in the remit of BCBC. It's purely NHS, and I think that is the big disconnect on planning. If you can't get a doctor's surgery in a place that's potentially going to have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 homes, if you can't, it puts pressure on other doctor's surgery, increases waiting times for people who for years have been able to get. So the biggest Tunacoid surgery in Sam had to take on all the ones from Park Doing. Yes, they got money to expand the surgery, but it went from a 48-hour turnaround on repeat prescriptions to a week. And elderly people find it difficult enough as it is, and going from 48 hours to a week, it just confuses people, and not everybody can keep up with that. And that's the problem. If you're going to plan big housing estates like Park Derwin or Broadlands, you've got to have the basic infrastructure of schools, surgeries, shops, play parks, somewhere, and green spaces, places that people can go, even a community centre. Before you even think of putting one house on, they've got to be in place, or at least saying, we're going to build 500 homes. At the end of those 500 homes, that's when we get doctor surgery in. That's when we put in the community centre before another home is ever going to be built. You've got to have the infrastructure in place, and they don't plan on the infrastructure until after everything's in place, and then think, oh God, what a mess we've got here. How can we fix this? And it ultimately costs them more to fix it because they're having to work around what's existing there rather than work in what they were going to put there.
Well, I have got, if that is going to be an English school, I have really got concerns on the safety of the children walking to that school.
Yeah.
And I've basically got parking. Do you mean because out the front out here, you can get about at the moment you can probably get about 50 cars. You might think that is a lot. Do you mean to know? But that's 50 cars on top of all those children bussed in by a bus. So if our school is going to be running at full capacity, do you mean to know? You're not going to leave your child walk to that school because it's going to have to cross main roads. So the traffic of cars is going to be even worse and causing even more accidents than what we already have. And if they are going to do that and they're going to put them in from over in Coity, then they need to sort the pavements out because there is no pavement on one side of the road. And they're going to have some sort of safe crossing so these kids can cross the road. Well, not just the kids, but the parents as well. That's so that is one I would definitely like to do more on that. I've got to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? I know you thinking it's going to be an English school, but I do have my doubts on that.
Speak to Councillor Amanda Williams. She'll have more information on that because she's been pushing for something to happen better for Coity for years, and I don't think she believes that having an English school in Brackland's going to solve the problem. It's just going to create more problems in the long run. So it's probably best if you get to go and speak to her on that, and because it's going to be your two areas that are affected, whether you're councillors or not. You're still public.
Well, I'm a governor at Penabont, so it has implications, and these decisions that are made are not, how it affects other people is not considered, and it's just chaos there, and there's no organization at all. And if there's an independent coalition that is able to form an administration in May, and I'm trying to bring this, I promised you 45 minutes tonight. We've been on here for 2 hours already. If we can form an independent administration in May, we need 5 years of joined up thinking and just better than we've had. And, a lot of what we're doing with our campaign is about a better Bridgend, and, for Lisa would be about a better Brackler and all, and all these kind of things. But how do you mark what better is? Well, better is thinking about where we're going with the strategy, because if we're going to have this drive towards Bridgend being a dormitory town, because that's where we're going.
Yeah.
That's the desire. That's what the investment in the Cardiff Capital Regional Deal is about.
Well, they call it in their own literature.
Exactly. We will create an employment hub in Cardiff, and people in Bridgend will live there. Will live in Bridgend and travel to Cardiff. That's the ambition. But if you're going to have an increase in the number of people who live here, then you have to think about the infrastructure. And I personally, it's my own personal view, and I hope to be one of 51 councillors on May the 6th. Bridgend isn't a dormitory town. Bridgend is a proud employment area that needs investment, inward investment into employment opportunities.
Oh yeah, I agree.
But this current administration, and apparently the Conservatives share this view based on their support for the CCRD, you cannot just say that we're going to be a dormitory town that has thousands and thousands of houses. You need better roads. You need more schools. You need better, more doctor surgeries, dentists. You need all of these things, because without them, you're creating misery for people. We all see it on Facebook. Does anybody know of any dentist taking on NHS? It happens all the time. And that comes down to lack of planning with infrastructure, and that's what needs to change. And that doesn't come from officers within BCBC. My personal opinion is that BCBC is full of good officers. It's about leadership and direction, and the captain of the ship, and where are we going, and the journey that the leaders are taking us on. And there's no drive, there's no direction, there's no ambition. We will become this dormitory town. We will serve our more powerful city neighbours in Cardiff.
Yeah.
But we've got the 5th busiest train station in the whole of Wales, with possibly the smallest car park.
And probably the smallest station as well.
Yeah, but it's the 5th busiest in Wales on footfall, and that's not great, because we should be creating job opportunities in our town. If COVID has taught us anything, that traveling to work is not the future; it's the past.
No, it's and when they do try to increase job opportunities in town, or increase something that will try and create it, they do it wrong. Bridgend master plan, as they call it, is one. Bringing the college to the centre of town is not going to increase the businesses the way they think it will, because college students have very limited budgets. Mm-hmm. They won't go to a place like Peterwood Butchers or to a clock place to buy a clock or something like that. It's the total wrong kind of singular people to attract. Okay, attract younger people, but also you've got to attract the older people, the families, and especially the retired people who do have better disposable incomes, will shop at these independent shops like the butchers, like the shoe repairs, or the clock places, or watches, or even the wool shops in town. And larger companies won't come until you've got a good independent base of businesses and a good footfall. They just won't even consider it before that. That's why you get places like Poundland and Home Bargains and mobile phone shops dominating these small areas, because they cater to those sort of people, the people with lesser disposable incomes. So even when they do have an ambition of doing something, it's not thought through correctly. It's not there to increase productivity in the town centre, when it used to be a heaving town centre when I first moved here back in 1992. When I first moved to Bridgend in 1992, it was heaving, absolutely heaving every weekend near enough. It was heaving. Okay, when it was peeing down with rain, it obviously was thinned out a lot, but when it comes to Christmas, you had queues going out the door, people waiting to get it. Don't see that anymore. But
I was going to say, when I lived in town, Luke, I moved to town, into Bridgend town, when was it, 1992, and I was in Bridgend town then, do you mean? And because I lived in town, obviously, then I used to go to the bank. But the thing is, with like online banking and all different stuff like that, people don't go to town now because they haven't got to go to the bank. I'm not just saying it's because of the bank, do you mean? But I mean, now, that was, we didn't have, in 1992, I think I had my first mobile phone. So it was one of those. I was in Bridgend College.
The bricks.
Yeah, it was. It was like a Nokia thing. It was about this big with a big huge aerial sticking off it. But I mean, our daily thing was, on the thing, we'd go down into Bridgend, we'd go to the bank, we'd get a bit of money out, we'd go into the Indo market. I mean, get a bit of meat, go and get a bit of veg, go around the shops and come on. And that was, well, it was my weekly thing. And I've got to be honest with you, because I don't go to I'm in Brackland now, do you know what I mean? But obviously to drive to Bridgend, then to find somewhere to park. I know we got a 3-hour free parking now at the moment, but I mean, you're talking about 7 years ago. And especially then when the boys were younger, to drive to Bridgend, to find somewhere to park, then to get the whole thing out, it was just like, it wasn't, to me, it was like, that's it. And it's got to be the parking. And I think with them putting the college in where the police station and that is now, where are people going to park for that college? I know there's a multi-storage car park there, but I mean, are college people going to pay to park every single day?
I think the new master plan has the college where the post office building is, isn't it?
Don't refer to it as a master plan. It's a wish list. That's all
No,
it is.
but that's what they are. The master plan.
There's no plan. That's a wish list. I mean, the last master plan from 10 years ago delivered 3 projects successfully. It's a statutory obligation on behalf of a local authority, and it's a wish list. They don't own any of the properties they want to knock down, and they have absolutely no plans to do it.
But in the new college going where the police station is.
Yep, and the only long stay car park in the whole town. So we're getting rid of the long stay car park with no plans to replace it.
So where that's the thing. So where the people are going to be coming to college, yeah. So where are they actually going to be parking?
Well,
and
I mean,
and are they going to be paying for parking?
We're talking about infrastructure again. When they approved the Sunnyside Wellness Village and there weren't enough car parking spaces, the councillors were told that people will ride their bikes to the doctor's surgery.
But there's not enough room there, is there?
They'll be parking on the streets. They'll be parking outside people's houses. That's the only place to park. And anyway,
well, do you remember?
But that's not good for people, disabled people, especially going to the wellness, place. I know you think they'll have a couple of car parking spaces for disabled people and that, but
there's not even enough car parking spaces for how many staff they anticipate to have.
Can I just point out that they don't really have a wellness village yet because it still hasn't been approved for a second time yet with the new construction company. So until that happens, it's not really a wellness village. It's a piece of land which ultimately a lot of people think will be developed with housing.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, are we going to draw this?
I'm going to draw this to a close and say thank you both. Thanks for joining us for the first time, Lisa, and look forward to having you on again. Same to you, Steve. It's great to have you on as ever. And I'll say goodbye from the Lisa Lewis show this week.
Trust me.
Look,
if for all of those who criticise Bridgend County independence, the very fact that we are supporting a community champion like Lisa in Bracklow West justifies our existence. Because, I don't know whether you would have stood in this election without the support of other independent candidates or not. But we've had a hell of a laugh on this journey already. And it's been great, and Lisa is replicated numerous times around the county. I think that the last count we put 91 nomination papers in for the elections at both tiers, and that there's a couple. I think I'm on a couple. Lisa, you're on a couple. So there are duplicates. It's not 91 people, but there are other people like Lisa around the county who perhaps would not have stood in this election before. And Lisa and Freya have had fantastic evenings with a bottle of wine, designing your leaflet, the words that you wanted to say, but presenting it properly. The very fact that Lisa is standing forget all the rubbish about you're a party. And I took a screenshot earlier, Luke, of something that was sent to me, and this whole thing of referring to BCI as a party is a tactic by our opponents. And somebody has said on a forum somewhere, isn't it great that calling the Bridgend County Independence Party is catching on? Well, no, not really, because the public don't care. What's catching on is that people like Lisa are knocking doors in Long Acres and Bracklow West and talking to people directly about what she wants to do better for the community than they've had for the last 22 years of Bridgend County Borough Council. And I will be eternally proud of the people that we've got standing in this election. And whoever gets elected, May the 6th is going to be a magical day if everything that's going on at the minute carries on, because people like Lisa, people like Mark Payne, people like Fran Sullivan in Bracklow, that's had party political control for the entirety of the 22 years that it's been Bridgend County Borough, is amazing. And I sincerely hope that people like Phil Pickering and Cheryl get elected into Christchurch and Bracklow East. And whatever happens, we're going to have a hell of a party over that weekend. Don't anybody try and contact us over that weekend.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
you had
Luke,
one last time.
Yes, it did.
The thing is, Luke, is it's about getting out there, meeting people, making new friends, and I'm not on about just with the BC with Steve and that. I'm on about making new friends in the community. Do you mean bringing people together, working together, and basically getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also the people that are standing for community council, people like Dan Dyer, Dan McConnell, and many others that are just standing for community council, because that's a big difference in itself. Doing better for the community is a big difference in itself, and I think they should be applauded as well. And BCI supported candidates have obviously grown this year, the number of seats and the number I think of people that have already got seats in uncontested places. St. Bride's, Anna Saldra, Coity Higher could be completely independent, which has never happened. Coity High could be completely independent.
I was told in 1995, Bridgend Town Council had 19 Labour councillors. It was at the height of John Labour's unpopularity, and Labour got all 19.
John Major, do you mean?
What did I say? I thought I said John Major. No.
You said John Labour.
Oh, John Major. I do apologise. It's been a long 2 hours. When John Major's government was at its lowest ebb, and Bridgend Town Council got 19 Labour councillors. Labour have only put 14 candidates up this time. Or was it 12? No, they put 12 candidates up. And as you said, they haven't put any up in Coity.
None up in St. Bride's, none up in Nostalgia.
No, there's something strange going on. And, there are ex-Labour members who are now associated with BCI. And, that's a message. That is a message to the Labour Party that they've lost touch with the people. And not exclusively them.
No, but it's not just Labour that are doing it. Tim Thomas, who's applied, he's been pale. Ian Spiller is a Liberal Democrat. There are others that have been part of party politics, been quite vocal for their parties, and they can see that locally they've lost the idea of what communities are. Local parties have. They've lost what communities are, and they're looking at them as a national thing. It's like the BBC did the report. This is a council election that is going to decide what national politics is.
No.
Across Wales. And I'm thinking, well, no, it's got nothing to do. And that's the BBC. It's going to be a referendum on Boris Johnson's time as Prime Minister. That's what it
I will use my last comment on something that really tickled me, and one phrase that has really kind of made my my month. 5 years ago, the independents were referred to as ragbags, as you remember, by the First
Ragtag and
Minister.
bobtail.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And apparently this time the phrase is that we've adopted, especially not the independents.
I've seen Steve's little photos, Steve Easterbrook's photos.
Don't pay us the credit of knowing that we're in your head. Do not give us invigorated energy by telling us that we are your main opposition. Because when you say, especially the independents, that is the largest compliment you could pay us. Because that will be put on t-shirts. Let me promise you that. Well, especially not the independents.
Steve Easterbrook has been having a lot of fun with that over the weekend, hasn't he?
He really has.
He's been good to see.
Yes.
It really has. So that's Steve's final thought. Lisa, is there anything you want to say before we say goodnight to everybody?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that the parties have lost the people and they left in droves, and they are going to leave in droves this time and vote for the person and not the party.
Thank you. Well, thank you both for joining me pretty much last minute, Lisa, even though I did message you in the week on your other page, not your thingy page. And thank you, Steve, for arranging Lisa to come on tonight. So Steve did all the work for me. I will say thank you to everybody. A quick reminder, Stephen's wife has got a fundraiser for breast cancer research. Please go donate to that. And I've got my own GoFundMe, which people have donated to, who want to remain anonymous as on the thing. So I'll leave it at that. But I will publicly thank Lisa for the donation to my computer, of fixing my computer. She bought 2 memory things. I don't know what they're called. Amy McConnell fitted them, and Lisa bought them. And now I have a computer that works. It doesn't just die halfway through a live stream. Like our first one, wasn't it, Steve? Where it just went, where's Luke gone? Anyway, I'll say goodnight and thank you, everybody. And I'll see you all next week. Okay, goodbye.
Ta-ra, Luke. Ta-ra, Steve.
Bye.